back, angry gamers.
Welcome back, KAG. Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Rage Farm.
We're at www.
Rage.
No. memoryleak.com. That's not real. Don't
We're
go to that site.
We're genuinely not. Nobody can. Yeah. I can't vouch for what happens if you go to that site.
If you go to that site. Don't
all the
do
malware that will instantly install on your device.
Instantly invade and get you locked the fuck up by the police or somebody.
This is a phishing test and you all failed.
Yep. I mean, you'd all fail anyway. This is the modern age. People don't know how to protect themselves online.
That's right.
Be
Rise
fucking
up.
Real about that.
Rise up, my armored divine soldiers.
My armored divine soldiers. My what was his name on that fucking site?
I think it was the divine soldier. Or something.
Yeah. I think it really was the divine soldier. You're right. Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Welcome to Memory Leak, the podcast about games, gaming, and nothing. What's your name?
My name is Geron, recompiled Geron.
And my name is Benjamin, punished Benjamin.
And this is, what are we talking about today? I kind of just want to, I already started venting. I did this a couple weeks ago. We're going to do it again, dog.
Let's do it. What really grinds your gears?
What really grinds my shit? I think, and again, it's not lost on me that we're doing a podcast about this shit. My thing is, to reiterate, people need to treat video games as fun, as toys,
as games,
as entertainment, not as a fucking political, anti-political, like, oh God, they're trying to, it's woke. No, this is about. And what about my fantasy? Like, fuck you. Fuck that. I think that gamers have been allowed to be, don't misinterpret this, been allowed to be weird for a little too long, been rewarded for being strange for too long. And when I say strange...
Catered to.
I mean like... some unacceptable behavior in public spaces when it comes to talking about their hobby of choice. And this isn't unique to video games, but this podcast is unique to video games. Why? Because, oh yeah. As somebody that has worked behind the curtain, as somebody that knows the kind of people that get up and ask and ye bark at publishers and developers for what they think they want. I know that these people honestly don't deserve shit.
I think the anonymity doesn't help.
The anonymity absolutely doesn't help.
It's like the only avenues that people have to express their opinion is never in person. Never in person. Never in a place.
Which
I think is unique to this space.
There's something unique about the medium where people can, because it's interactive, I think people think...
They immerse too much.
They what?
They immerse too much?
Yeah, they get fully immersed spawn first. They, a lot of references to ancient history today. Imagine you're playing a game and you play it for hours and hours and hours, and now because your mind is fucking warped, you think you're more experienced in what makes that game what it is, and the people who made the fucking thing. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I think there's a flip side to it too, though.
Flip it. Tell me right now, bitch.
First off, I'm curious. Is there a particular example that triggered this?
That triggered this?
Because I'm curious.
That's a really good question. Like, I wish I had a specific...
I know you were already slipping down this slide last night.
Yeah. If I had a specific hard example, it's like, shit. Let's keep talking, and if the one shows up, I'll absolutely expound on it. But
so
go ahead.
I think there is a balance. I don't think there's a situation where it's like, oh, the devs always know best. because they do have the behind the curtain experience.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things that come to mind. First off, I think again, I think that it's more of a Venn diagram, I guess, rather than like an overlapping circle or two disparate things. Yeah. But like, there's always going to be gamers that are better at the game than the developer. Like, they get so in the weeds and have so much time on their hands to know the ins and outs.
Yeah, okay.
The most obvious example is like Melee, where like I don't think Melee was intentionally made the way that it was made to go down into those depths.
A lot of the things about Melee are not made to be that.
Right.
It's a byproduct of them just kind of putting some stuff together.
Right.
And them being like, well, it doesn't break the game.
Right.
So like the game doesn't freeze when you do this. So
yeah, like they probably knew about some of the individual interactions, but it took 20 years of tinkering and iterating to get to the point where they could all be strung together in a way that it becomes a completely different game.
Right. So
and that's a case where I think like there's people that probably know more about Melee than Sakurai knows about Melee at this point, or at least about what makes it quote fun in a different way.
So you say that, I understand what you're saying. I think they understand what makes that fun for them, but it's not like the people who develop that game are unaware of the way the gameplay is is developed.
No, it's not, I don't think it's an awareness thing. I think I do think that gets misconstrued.
Yeah.
I think the people that play it are like, they don't hear us, they're not listening.
Oh,
that's fucking bullshit.
Fucking hot
that's stupid
bullshit.
as shit.
That's insane bullshit.
Yeah, that's definitely bullshit.
Insane.
But I think what a developer intends versus how it gets consumed don't necessarily have to be aligned.
Sure.
And it can lead to something greater than the original purpose. In some cases.
In some cases.
In some cases, it can be something worse. Another example that comes to mind is Jonathan Blow.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Who like is extremely. It's a completely different example because it's not a fighting game. It's something like that.
Right.
But there's the classic meme of Soldier Boy.
Yeah, Soldier Boy,
like not getting it, quote unquote, and Jonathan Blow getting depressed,
getting fucking sad about it
with sad music.
That's
like there can be an example where a developer is so pretentious in how something gets consumed and perceived that it like. They become hateful and spiteful about it.
And look, that's the thing. Like, I can understand if it's your life's work or whatever, and you're really passionate about it, and you know it's some big deal thing that you made and you put hours of your life into it. I totally understand that. I get it. But you have to understand, not you, but like Jonathan Blow in that particular case, maybe he didn't get it, but clearly Soulja Boy was amused by the game, right?
It's true.
And that's the point. That is the
but I think
point.
even he missed, like the developer missed the point.
That's what I'm saying that too. Like it's like agreeing with you. I think both ends have a level of misunderstanding how like not important.
Yeah, that's where I feel like it's a Venn diagram is probably the best representation of like developer intent and then like community engagement or like understanding or interpretation. And it can also be like inverted in the sense that like those two things don't get aligned at all. And then there's like some kind of weird rift that just leads to bad things. Phil Fish is another example that comes to mind.
See, Phil Fish's problem is that he's so emotionally well, okay, it must be.
I feel like single player games are just uniquely like a weird topic in this realm. I think not fighting games, but multiplayer games or games as a service.
I'm actually more concerned about single player game, like those kind of games. I'm not worried about the competitive shit.
Well, because that shit's interesting because the game is sort of like always evolving.
Yeah,
like if you think if Melee had been made today, it would never have become what it is today because it would have been fucking patched out.
Yeah, it'd be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
No, but I just mean in the sense of like the access of patching and updating a game.
Yeah,
they would have ripped that shit out.
Yeah,
they would have made it not possible to do the things that they can do because they want it to be more accessible to a wider audience for a longer period.
They want the skill ceiling to be lower.
Exactly. So it's that is also an interesting conversation. Like Helldivers 2, another great example where they're implementing things, whether they had pre-announced it or it was part of the roadmap or if it was unintended and they patched it emergency-wise. But there's changes that can happen to a game that a developer wants because they have their vision for the game. but go against how the community is sort
community has
of
been
interpreting
engaging
it
with it,
and engaging with it. So that's always an interesting balancing act too.
Like a competitive game isn't the kind of thing I'm thinking of. The Jonathan Blow example, that kind of thing, is closer to the kind of
Oh, I have another example actually. I had a long conversation with somebody about this. So I was playing through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right?
Rebirth specifically, okay.
And with single player games like even the original Final Fantasy VII, a big facet of the game is like finding a build or a party composition or a strategy that kind of turns the game on its head a little bit and breaks it.
Yeah.
Which is fun. It's fun to do that. It's fun to like go out of bounds, so to speak, and like go outside of maybe even what the developers were aware of or intended.
To push the rules as far as you can push them.
Exactly. And
to stretch them, I should say.
There was a strategy, a very particular strategy that it was one specific interaction that made this possible where you could effectively become invincible. Like you couldn't be hurt and you could just win.
Yeah.
Like it required a little bit of I guess like practice or understanding of just like how the systems work. And you know, it was like a 98% success rate if you just like hit the button like over and over again and just spam it. And it got to the point where that specific interaction, like I could think in my head where if I was the developer and I knew that this was going to happen, like I could make this one small change and still make it effective, but not last forever, so that it would fall off or something, or like cooldown times would affect it, and you could use it in circumstances, but you couldn't keep it held up in perpetuity.
Constantly,
And I was thinking like this might be something that they would consider patching. And like when I was having this conversation, they were like, "That's the dumbest thing ever. I hate that." Like. Just if people break the game, you should accept as a developer that people have figured out your game, and you shouldn't let your sort of ego come into the mix of like, it's like, oh, well, I can't stand it if developers like break my game, like that kind of a mentality. And I just thought it was an interesting conversation because like I see both sides. Like on the one hand, you do want hard things to be hard. And you want like a particular type of experience. But at the same time, you also want people to have that creative freedom of figuring out fun things that do work and be able to do silly shit.
There's absolutely a balance to that kind of thing because in that particular regard, let's say we live in an age where people have fucking trophies and achievements and shit.
Right.
And because of that bullshit, personally, I think achievements and trophies are bullshit. Because of that bullshit, every game, no matter what you're playing, is a pseudo competition. Which means that
it's like, oh, did you beat this thing?
Yeah, which means that stuff like that needs to be
people do that shit with Elden Ring all the time and Dark Souls games.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it started off of like, oh, who's beating the DLC? And then it was like, oh, who beat the DLC but with the tier equipped? It's like, oh, but who beat the DLC but not with this weapon equipped? And it just like keeps being this dick measuring contest.
Yeah, putting fucking hurdles and hoops up to be like, hey, who beat the game without fucking using any of the goddamn available mechanics or anything? Some games encourage that kind of thing, but
Kingdom Hearts, level 1 run.
Yeah, there you go. And like even to roll it to something that I know about. Bayonetta 1 is Hideki Kamiya was like, this game is actually really severe about a lot of its scoring. So Bayonetta 2 and 3 are just easier to score. You can use items. You're not punished for using items. Like using an item in Bayonetta 1 is considered half a death. I mean, that's pretty fucked up.
There's a lot of games that have that balance. I always find that an interesting mechanic where it's like the more things that you use, the lower your score gets.
Yeah.
Mega Man Zero also comes to mind. It's like the more elves that you equip, it permanently knocks you down every subsequent level, and like you have to start a new file if you want to try it without.
Yeah, like that's on one hand, you know, if that's what
I like that for games that have high replay value, you know, like shorter games where you are intended to play it more than once, like use the aid, but acknowledge that using the aid will come at like a prestige cost.
Yeah, like this game is now an efficiency test, and if you're using things like this, then you are going to be punished. You're going to have to you're using it as a crutch to learn how to do this without it at some point.
Right.
Like going to balancing a single player experience and changing it and stuff like that. It's like you were talking about ego. And I think ego is one of the things that fucks up discussion about this particular industry for sure.
Yeah.
I think like going all the way back to console wars bullshit with the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis up to now, where there's still people that are like
PS5 has no games.
PS5, Xbox has no games.
PC Master Race.
Another win for PlayStation.
It's like, dog, really? If you look at it, there are way more games than anybody has any time to keep up with. Ben just sat down on his knees and put his elbows on the seat.
Just switching it up, helping my back.
And Ben is like 10 feet tall, so he looks fucking crazy like this. But
no, the sheer volume of games these days is fucking crazy.
Yeah,
you look at the Switch library over its lifespan. It's
so
like, what? Compare this to any other fucking Nintendo platform in history or combined.
Exactly, and like it's all the way down from $1 bullshit like mobile style games to $70 Tears of the Kingdom. You know, that's on every platform. It's you are not at all starved for games, but people want to see games that push the technology. We've mentioned this before in a big way. They want stuff that pushes the technology, but we're like past that. We hit that plateau. Now it's about pushing how fast you can get into a game and making the experience as convenient as possible for the developer, for the publisher, and you. I.e.,
that's
you
an
buy
interesting
directly from them, and you don't have to put in a disc.
That's an interesting discussion to be had too. Not to diverge too much, but
I mean, let's just flow.
Polygon had an article today about how they basically imported the entirety of Fall Guys into Fortnite.
Yeah,
did you see that shit?
I did see that.
And it was about like the bleak future of the metaverse,
where everything is.
Yeah, they're like it loses a little bit of its soul. It's all like Roblox style, like game within a game type bullshit. Yeah. Which is just interesting. I'm like, I've never engaged with a game like that. I've never installed Roblox. I've never installed the weird Fortnite add-ons. Like when they remade Alan Wake in Fortnite.
It's fucking like Fortnite. I did mess with it when it had when they added the festival, like the Rock Band.
Oh, mode. That's right. I did do the Rocket League one.
That and the Rocket League one, which felt like it was really easy. Like felt like no one knew how to drive. I don't know what was up.
Well, it was a weird thing. Like it felt like not a real game.
Yeah, but I was like, this is cool, but what's happening here? Like Fortnite went from being a game to being just a platform for game developers to make games on.
I think that's the idea. Like that and Roblox are kind of pushing each other to be like, we're getting people into a game so deeply that they won't need any other game because they're just always in this game doing different things.
And if you think about it with Roblox, when you have users making content, especially, you have a situation where you just have an infinite flow of content from people that aren't really being paid to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really cost efficient for them, but
I'm pretty sure Roblox actually just like lost a lawsuit.
Yeah, they probably did. That sounds right. It's I think Roblox just got banned in Turkey. In fact,
that might be what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of.
that might be.
That's definitely what I'm thinking of. Actually, there's a good side to it though, which is that it does get people more into like the game development side of things to appreciate that.
I think that's a benefit, and like
it is a benefit, and then to tail off of that, it gives them a head start if they do actually want to like pull it out of the game and like make it a standalone game.
Yeah,
they have a basis for that.
And they get a huge audience, like potential audience of people playing this fucking like
that's
Fortnite
true,
and Roblox and shit. It's like, oh, I got discovered for my fucking
What was the company? Was it Lethal Company?
Lethal Company.
That was a Roblox game first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then they published it on, and they could publish it on Steam, even though they made it in Roblox.
Yeah.
So, like, there's good stories that come out of it.
Yeah.
I just wonder if like the cost is worth it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I will say, with how many games are coming out, the way the games are being made is becoming a little bit more homogenized, where people are using the same engines. I don't mind that because there's a lot of documentation you can make. Whatever. It's like if everyone uses the same hammer, they might make a completely different thing with that hammer. It's just a tool. But you have all the games that are imitating old genres, old gameplay. They kind of look like the sitcom royalty-free thing that you see.
That's
on
very
the
much what it feels like.
This is what video games are, but it's no specific video game. That's what a lot of them feel like. Whether they are that or not is up to them to try to transcend. But there's a lot of like armchair, I know better kind of talk about
While Geron's sitting in an armchair,
Yeah,
talking into
there's
a
no
microphone.
arms on this chair, bitch. It's just like talking about what is good for this particular industry. It's like it's really hard to say what's good because now there's so many people involved in it, and there's so many different factors involved in it. There's so much money in it. There's a lot of time going into it.
We don't talk too much about politics, but I saw a tweet the other day that made me think about this from a guy that works at Yahoo Finance.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And I really like this guy because he's very objective. Like he states what his own personal biases are, but he's all about keeping it as objective and sort of like taking the emotion out of it.
Like this is what the number is.
Just like this is the state of the landscape. Here's the argument. Here's the evidence to back it up. If you want to attack me, don't attack the politics or like the sentiment. Attack the argument. And so there's honestly not a lot of people that form their thoughts that way.
Right. That's true.
And the way that I found him was when the fucking crypto shit was going crazy and GME was going crazy and everybody was like, "Oh, it could go to 10,000, it could go to 100,000." And he was literally just like, "This is such a standard finance thing. Like we've seen this before. Here's what's going to happen." And just like kind of laid out the historical basis. And he's like, and it was refreshing to see like a objective, relatively unbiased like reality check of a situation that had been so emotionally hyped. And emotionally hijacked rather.
Yeah.
But he said something about the political landscape about, people talk a lot about how like the vibes and the people that are too online and need to touch grass or whatever. And he was talking about how that is not always accurate. But he also made the comment like in the world of 2024 and in the 2024 election cycle, like what does offline politics even look like? Because so many people are online
with it.
That it's like it is shifting where that is the majority opinion.
That's the place where you get the discussion, and that's where
people are getting their news from.
That's where they're getting their information.
It was a minority, and it was sort of like laughed at.
Yeah,
because we all knew like, oh, you should get your information from like a trusted, verified source that cites its sources and this and that and whatever. But that's dying out, and it's just kind of a reality that needs to be accepted and adapted to.
Yeah, I mean,
rather than like ridiculed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, adapted to. I'd still really ridicule it though.
I mean, you can people should not get their news from TikTok videos. I think we can all agree on that. But it was interesting in terms of like when I think he was talking about polling specifically and how like pollsters are like, oh, well, you're not taking into account the people that like aren't online. And it's like, I guess like in the Midwest, it's a thing. I mean, he was like basically trying to form an argument around like, what does that look like? Like, how do you start changing your methodologies based on the like rapidly shifting technology landscape of like media and how politics is consumed? And
with certain things, like certain posters are kind of the representative of a group around them.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Look, definitely not all the time. But
and I think part of the challenge is that like just because something gets a lot of traction and visibility and likes and reposts doesn't mean that people even necessarily agree with it whole hog.
Right.
They just find it interesting.
They see it and it's something engaging to them. But again,
but it's not necessarily going to inform their own worldview, opinion, or how they're going to vote.
It's I think one of the dangerous things is not to give anybody an excuse. I'll say that looking at people's Twitter follows and not going any further than that to figure out what kind of person they are.
Yeah.
Like some people really do follow bullshit to just keep track of it. It's not because they agree with it. They just they want to keep up with
people
it.
Make that link subconsciously though.
Yeah.
Like I watch a lot of radical news on both sides.
Yeah. I know. I mean, you do it for entertainment.
It's entertainment, but it's also just like awareness because when, certain presidents win elections that you don't expect, you're like, how the fuck was this so off? Like what happened here? Like I kind of put on my hat that like this guy that I started following puts on where it's like, like there's so much emotion surrounding the results of the election for good reason, right? People have a lot invested in their lives. But just objectively, like where was the miss? Because like polls were off, projections were off, sentiment was off. Like everyone was
it so
wrong.
Misunderstood?
Yeah, and it was like where. So like it has to be coming from somewhere. Some majority in some states, in some regions, some communities. Like what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Like how do I just like become more aware of that? Because like it's interesting.
Trying to get a finger on the pulse. Trying to understand.
It's very easy to get in an echo chamber, I guess, is the moral of that story.
Yeah, it's difficult to understand what a lot of people, like what the majority of people or whatever, are really thinking and feeling, especially because on the internet, a lot of it is about getting as much engagement as possible. So it's about exaggerating. You're seeing, you might be seeing like a comic book version of the truth,
right, hyperbolic
truth in quotes. You might be seeing like people treating it like heroes and villains and crystal clear motivations and shit, and it's never actually like that. But trying to keep things relatively level when you're talking about that to get the real information, so so everyone has the real thing to be mad at, not the thing they think they should be mad at.
Yeah,
is difficult. Like this past Olympics, when what was her name? The boxer. I've mentioned
Imani
this before.
Khalif.
Imani Khalif. Yeah, it's like one.
Man, even Gizem
Yeah.
didn't realize that it was just like a chromosomal thing.
Yeah,
She thought it was like a trans thing. It was like coming at the thought and the argument, not argument, but just discussion from that point of view.
Yeah.
And like I kind of had to slow her down and be like, whoa. What do you think is the issue again? Like, can you restate like what you know about the situation?
Yeah, establish clearly what you understand, and then let's fix that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because
let's talk about the real issue.
If you like the
people love to make up problems.
Love to make shit up.
They love to make up problems that aren't real problems.
To make shit up, and they love to do it at the fucking They love to throw anybody under the bus to do it. Like this whole thing threw trans women under the bus for no fucking goddamn fucking reason. It's like, one,
they've got enough fucking problems.
What if she was? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if she was a trans woman? Look, they fucking approved her to fucking fight, dog. Sorry, but
it's also a what if. Like, why are we talking about this? Like, it's a what if. This isn't even the situation here.
Exactly.
Like, let's talk about the actual situation.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, even then, it's like that's not even what's going on. People are mad about something that's not true. So one, like, they're double stupid. Because
I did love that because it really did.
They shouldn't be fucking mad at.
It really did undercut all of the arguments surrounding trans athletes that had been built up, and I found that particularly entertaining. Coming as an elite swimmer myself, I will say, like, it's a tricky discussion. It's a really tricky discussion.
In the middle, like having the discussion when you're that close to it is probably much more delicate than someone who's.
It's not an easy conversation to have, but it's also not as big of a problem as people think it is because you have situations like this. I bet if they chromosomally tested all of the female athletes at the Olympics, she's not the only one that has XY.
Yeah, exactly.
They do shit like that all the time. Like, you will see where chromosomes dictate certain patterns in people.
Yeah.
Like in prison, they tested their chromosomes, and this is a long time ago.
Yes,
I got this shit from biology class in ninth grade, where like we had to look up a bunch of studies that were done at that time, which was 30 fucking years ago at this point. Yeah. Not 30.
Not 30. I'm not 20 something.
20.
It'd be about 20.
About 20.
Yeah, not quite
so,
20.
But 20 years ago, they're like, people in prison, the men that are in prison specifically, have extra Y chromosomes, and it gives them extra testosterone and difficulty regulating their emotions, and that's what makes them super aggressive and like more likely to commit crimes. Like, and that's an interesting thing. Like, let's have a discussion about chromosomes. You know what I mean? It's like this isn't a gender thing. Like, let's talk about like the biology, the actual biology challenges here.
Biology is so much more complicated and so much. It's more spectrum than binary.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Of course.
Like you form into, based on your hormones, your body forms into traits of something, but that doesn't mean the whole thing is dictated by like, oh, my I don't know. I just say something. I don't fucking know what I'm talking about.
No,
I don't want to say something crazy, but I'm just saying it's not a thing where,
and that's why sports, I think,
whole thing down the line, you are all man, you're all woman. That's it.
And that's what makes sports. I think sports is honestly like more tricky and nuanced to talk about than like legality. Like the legal shit is like
like
full trans rights, protect trans kids, all that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's not a hard decision for me.
Right. Yeah.
But sports is weird because sports, unlike the law, is actually about trying to cultivate fairness.
Right.
Which is why there's segregation of genders and there's a Paralympics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the discussion is challenge, like how do we let as many people, how do we be as inclusive as possible while also still maintaining
a sense of
a sense of fairness as much as possible. And like, again, the thing with like Imani Khalif, again, I think it undercuts a lot of the arguments that people had about trans athletes in the first place. So it could just be that it really is a non-issue.
Yeah. It's if you have a bad faith argument, you fuck up all the ones that might actually have some legitimate basis.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's like you're saying, there's a reason why there's weight classes and shit like that, all that kind of thing. And so I will say some of the people who make the arguments showed their ass by being like, "Oh, so y'all just think women suck?"
Yeah.
Like, is that what you're trying to say? Like, please don't.
It's funny.
Don't show your ass that hard, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is a podcast about other shit too. Look at that.
We went off the fucking rails today.
Absolutely off the rails. And we probably needed to do so for our own sanity. But we don't necessarily need to round it all the way back, but to at least look out the window and see where we've been. Think about the thing I said the other week about people kind of just spitting out incorrect information and doing so without much thought. It happens all the time.
Of course. It happens on this podcast.
It happens on this podcast, yeah. It's really like I said, it's not lost on me, but it's really easy for someone to have a thought, think it's right, and spit it into a microphone, hit publish, and completely fuck up everybody's sense of what's true. Like even dumb little shit like the Itsumi Mario thing. I'm never gonna get over that.
Wait, which thing?
I told you about that. I've mentioned it multiple times in the chat. Some dude said that he's not saying it's a me Mario. He's saying Itsumi Mario, as if Itsumi means superb.
Oh my god!
And I was like, wait, like apparently it's a surname. But the funniest part is that people started parroting that.
So it became
it was true. Like someone sent it to me.
They're like, "Did you know?"
And I said, I was just like, "That's not true."
I mean, that's been happening with just like general like history in terms of like where the industry was. And did you see? Do you know what I'm talking about?
But wait. Let me tell you what ended up happening. Let's finish
It's Me Mario.
The dude actually made another TikTok or something like that, whatever the fuck he was making videos on, that said, "Hey, I actually fucked up and that's not right." But people kept saying it. As soon as you give someone incorrect information, that's exciting to them.
The bullshit asymmetry principle.
It's
like a theorem that like any bullshit of any size, whatever you spit out there, takes twice as much like energy to correct it.
Yeah, than it was to
spit it out, squirt it out in the first place.
Literal spray it out into the fucking toilet. But what were you about to say? You were going to say something about.
There's been a bunch of Twitter discourse about how with the Switch 2, like it started off a commentary about like they alternate massive success and massive failure in their console lines. Oh, and then they were talking about the GameCube. Yeah. It's like, why was the GameCube such a failure when it had all these games? And it's like they're like the GameCube was great, people loved it, and like all this revisionism of like what actually was the reality and like the PS3 and like how PS3 was perceived versus the Wii. And it's just interesting how we've already gotten to the point where people have completely forgotten.
It's only been like 20 years. Because this stuff goes by so fast, and people who grow up and not giving a shit anymore.
Right.
So all you have now are not all you have, but you have like kids that watch shit like Scott the Woz on YouTube or some shit.
Yeah.
And he's talking, they're all talking about GameCube games with the highest reverence without ever expressing that, there's like 19 games that people wanted to play on GameCube.
Yeah.
In like on the GameCube, and then all the other games were on PS2 and Xbox. Like, you don't understand, the GameCube sold worse than the N64, which already didn't sell particularly great. Like, I don't think you understand.
Yeah.
When it's like people will be like, "Oh, I wish Nintendo would make another power-based system," which if you look at the way things went, every time they did that,
it was shit.
The moment they stopped doing that is the moment everyone wants it.
Yeah. Except for the Wii U.
Once it not to say that they stick with it, but like Switch, everyone it's sold. It's like the third best selling console.
It's about
ever.
to surpass PS2.
Yeah, it's really close to surpassing PS2.
It's like 1 million sales left.
That's in the US.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like 1 million something.
I think they already passed it worldwide then.
Maybe they did.
I think they did.
But like,
let's check before I squirt out bullshit.
Yeah. Like the PS, not the PS, the Game Boy. The Game Boy line got a boost when Pokemon came out, so people could have possibly have been playing new games on their black and white Game Boy for 11 years. Where on the other hand, there were other machines that came and went that had, color screens, backlights, front lights, whatever. It's the weirdest thing because the GameCube was the most featureless of the consoles, had the least buttons of the controller, the least disk space on the standard discs. Like a lot of games need to be on 2 discs that didn't have to be on the PS4 or not PS4, on the PS2 or the Xbox. There's just a lot of annoying shit with the GameCube. Not to mention a feature, quote unquote, a lack of a feature that ended up helping the system age is that it didn't really have online functionality. So most games aren't missing something nowadays. But when you're too young to have gotten to experience it, then you just hear the reverence for it in the end and think that's how everyone felt, when really that's how like 4 people that you've heard feel about it.
Right.
And all the other people that are like you are parroting that without having actually had access to it, which is then when you have a bunch of people begging for emulation and all that without understanding that maybe the stuff is actually uncommon because no one fucking bought it,
Mm-hmm. I was definitely off.
Off with what?
PS2 has sold 158 million units worldwide.
Yep.
And the Switch was at 143.
Yes, 143 or something like that when they got the number. So the U.S. numbers are the ones that are close to 1 million.
Yes, the U.S. numbers is the one that it might surpass.
Yeah.
Still crazy though.
It's still crazy for a machine like it is. I mean, it's been on the market for so long, and people have made the point that some people have made the probably accurate point that Nintendo's a little bit afraid to move on.
Yeah.
Because like this is the first console without like without
Shigesato.
No, Shigesato Itoi.
I've been playing Earthbound.
Yeah, there you go. Without what the fuck is his name?
Iwata.
Yeah. Without Satoru Iwata having anything to do with it. Or anybody like that. So they're trying to figure out how to navigate that when really the answer is just make the fucking thing but better. That's all
I'm like, but also how much influence do we really think Iwata by himself had on the Switch?
Yeah, it wasn't like obviously
he wasn't like the R&D head or anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's probably a level of
I'm sure Miyamoto is involved.
Yeah, it was probably a lot of this guy has worked on video games,
right,
and he just had to fucking endure the Wii U fucking bombing.
If anything,
so
I would
how
think
are we gonna figure this out?
I would think people should be like excited because Nintendo has been very well run over the last 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the pandemic
maybe even
arguably helped them because of shit like Animal Crossing.
Yeah, yeah.
But just like this cadence they've been on of like not over promising shit and like not announcing shit super early in the cycle, which they haven't really made the mistake since early Switch days, pre-COVID. But like they don't announce shit more than fucking 6 to 12 months out.
Right. Yeah.
Tears was the last time that they announced something super far out.
Like 4 or so years, yeah.
But like they've been getting sleeper hits out there that'll come out in like the next 1 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Like the lineup for 2024, if you rewind the clock like 6 months, people were like 2024 is dead. Nintendo's got nothing. But, and then they've got all this shit now like squirting out, and they're
like there's stuff ready to go.
And there's just like they're in a really good cadence right now of having frequent first party shit to pump out.
And I think they have an understanding that games are like entertainment toys first.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily meant to make you feel they don't have to make you feel some sweeping emotion or be graphical powerhouses to be entertaining. You know what I mean? I think audiences generally actually understand that.
Right.
But you'll have a lot of people telling them that those people are wrong. You know what I mean?
I do.
Like you should be like, not you, but there's people like, oh, it's got to be this and this and this. We got to push the technology. And it's like, for certain things unrelated to video games, I'd absolutely agree with you. Like, I'd like to see movie the CG in movies not regress to the fucking like these PS3 shit that I saw in Doctor Strange 2. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But
I do. I mean, part of that is also a function of like resources.
Yeah.
And like time and burnout and all that shit.
Yeah. And that I understand. And it's like technology to make that shit just easier to spit out. Not AI, but anything, you know.
Maybe partially AI.
Yeah, some sort of partial automation of certain things to, you know,
just efficiency shit.
Help make materials more
same people, add
easy
efficiency,
yeah,
but don't steal shit
right.
to make it happen.
Whereas with a video game, the only thing I need for those sons of bitches to do is just be consistent.
Right.
If you're
which is what they've been doing.
I don't give a fuck.
That's the thing. Is like they've been extremely consistent with their rollout strategy. Like somebody was saying how they've had Paper Mario Thousand Year Door on like the shelves ready to sell for like 2 years, 3 years, or something weird like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why didn't they just pump it out? It's like, dog, this is what we want. We're finally reached a point where we're getting releases. We don't have too much to look forward to like count the days, but we're getting a lot of surprises and shit is coming out consistently.
Like the moment you think I want something new is shown to you and you can get it within a month or two. It's not like the situation where you know about like 10 games and then they're all 3 years out and you have this like 6 month to 1 year span where just nothing
straight up. That's the implosion of the industry that we've been mentioning is like with the development budget that like Sony has kind of gotten into a hole of. All the studios that Xbox has that they're finally kind of starting to capitalize on, like the games that those two companies are targeting just like take so long. They take so much to make that it's like you're not getting anything if you're not pumping shit out.
Yeah, and those big budgets and everything are probably precisely the reason why these games come out on the last generation console still. Like now, you know what I mean?
Or don't come out at all, like Last of Us Online.
Yeah, exactly. Like fucking.
Did you see the shit about GTA 6? The alleged budget that got leaked is $2 billion.
Yeah.
Somebody made a really funny comparison comment. They're like, seeing the shit with GTA 6 should be illegal because no video game should have a higher budget and longer development time than the Manhattan Project.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like making bombs, dog. It shouldn't
making
be like
the first atomic bomb ever.
Yeah, like on the other hand, let's not make bombs and let's make video games.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
at the same time, let's make more games.
I think it's more just about like the fact that it was a bomb is fucked up. Like nuclear power is cool.
Yeah, nuclear power is cool.
But like I think that was the mere point, is that just like the technological achievement of nuclear fission has now been exceeded by a video game budget.
Video game budget. I mean, granted, if GTA 5 is any indication, this game will last for like 15 years without a new release.
Yeah, that's true.
Like by itself.
Like this is just gonna ride Rockstar Studios for the next fucking 30 years.
This is the last Grand Theft Auto game I think we're gonna see in our like lives as people that have the energy to enjoy video games the way we have. You know,
it's true. I mean?
Especially since you've got some stuff coming up.
Don't worry about it. First guest.
Maybe. But yeah, I think this particular thing has become maybe too self-serious. I think the important part should be keeping people employed and keeping people employed, keeping people working, keeping projects coming out.
People taking shit too seriously, man. People getting obsessive over both the development side and the gaming side. That's where it comes back to. You know, it's like it's that Venn diagram of balance where it's like the developer has ego, the gamer has ego, but let's tone down the rhetoric. Let's tone down what we're trying to achieve here and not get so obsessed with making like the next best, perfect, important thing, like achievement. Right? It's their
not
games.
Everything needs to be the biggest.
Yeah.
Especially with the way stuff moves, everybody should be pacing themselves when they're enjoying entertainment. You don't need to be there day one. You don't need to be there as soon as everybody else is. You don't need to be part of the conversation all the time. It might be fun to be, but you don't need to be there, because what you might find out is a conversation about something pushes you in a negative direction when it comes to it. But then you finally experience the thing yourself, and you're like, "Yo, this is pretty good."
Yeah.
You know, like maybe I'll go see fucking the Borderlands movie and be like, "Oh, this is all right." But
interesting choice.
It won't be. I'm pretty sure I won't like it. And I'm not going to pay money to see it anytime soon. That's for fucking sure. But just like the conversation around it right now is that it's ass. So like I can't do anything but think it's ass until I experience it, and then maybe the expectation that it's ass will make me think, oh, you know what? I think this movie knows it's fucking stupid. Who knows?
Yeah, man.
That kind of shit is the way like the fourth Matrix movie is, where it knows it's fucking stupid as shit. Like it's very aware of how stupid it is.
The self-awareness I appreciated. I liked the fourth Matrix movie.
It made me laugh so much. I was like, holy fuck.
I feel like people that
saying,
understand the fourth Matrix movie enjoyed it. And the people that don't really understand the Matrix in general fucking hated it.
Yeah. Like if you come there looking for nostalgia for that first movie, they were making fun of you.
Yeah.
They're distinctly and strictly making fun of you. Like if Morpheus being fucked up, the whole Trinity thing, everything is fucked up on purpose.
Yeah.
But look, I think we've made some points. I think we can.
Yeah, we've ranted here.
I think we can chop it up right now.
All right.
Higher fans, I got one.
Oh, here we go.
Mystical Ninja starring Goemon is getting a recompilation project that's exactly like the one from Majora's Mask. You just drop the ROM in there, and it spits out a native PC version, which runs at arbitrary.
Do you have a ROM of it? Like, did you have the original copy?
I have the game, yeah. I have the game, so I have the ROM. I have the original game. I ripped it. So I love the fact that I ripped all my games, because when all these decomp projects comes out, it means I just dump what I own into it and get a fucking version that runs nicely on my PC.
How do you feel about the decomp versions?
I think as an idea, it's cool. Like I don't think that's all the extra options they offer kind of fuck things up. Like widescreen fucks up,
or like higher frame. The higher frame rate is always what kind of weirds me out.
Higher frame rate is strange, and how sharp it is strange. Because you can sharpen it and then put all the appropriate anti-aliasing on it, so it just looks perfect. And these games are not really meant to look perfect.
Right.
Granted, you can take it back down to the original resolution, and having that option there is great. It means you can play it as it originally was, but you don't get the like performance and other kind of issues that come with emulating, because the game is running in a way
it's running natively.
It's made for your CPU, your PC CPU to deal with, and your graphics card and everything, rather than translating what a Nintendo 64 or a PS2 or whatever would do. And I think it's nice because you get better control options usually. Like the Majora's Mask and the Goemon ones are built on the same thing. Like literally when you loaded the Goemon decomp, the controls, they have the little icons that they use for Majora's Mask in there. And I was like, oh, okay. But
it's funny.
I think because of just the way those are designed and all that, even the Perfect Dark one, the Perfect Dark decomp recomp actually has it, like the game will detect what controller it is. It'll have mouse and keyboard profiles and controller profiles and everything, while also still being the Nintendo 64 game with a higher frame rate, which is probably like, if you're gonna play the game not for the first time necessarily, but if you're gonna play the game afterwards, just to kind of visit it.
Yep.
It's just a more comfortable way to do it. It's very easy to just drop your ROM in. And
so maybe not good for if you're looking for that native first time experience, but maybe just a fun rehash.
I think if you're returning to the game, that's the way to do it. I think playing it for the first time with all the extra shit gives you an incorrect impression of what this game is, and in some ways you're kind of like not really playing.
That makes sense.
What it was. Like Mystical Ninja starring Goemon had weird frame rates, but seeing it run at 60 frames per second is almost a little too clean.
Right.
Because something about it's supposed to be
a different vibe,
like a cartoony version of a historical Japanese environment, and something about it running at like 30 frames per second also made it feel
like too modern.
Having it run at the lower frame rates makes it feel like it's like I'm looking at it through a film strip or something.
Oh, okay.
Rather than playing it at 60 frames per second or higher.
Right.
at perfect sharpness, perfect clarity. That makes it feel like I'm playing an indie game that doesn't understand what Nintendo 64 games look like.
Right.
And
It's a
like
funny way of
not
putting it.
that it makes the game worse or anything, but it's like what people think these games are supposed to look like when they're just not.
Speaking of that and Goemon,
Yeah.
how do you feel about Bakeru?
But it's
It's by Goodfeel.
funny. That game, the impression I got initially, because the controls are like you use the L and R buttons as attack buttons, and then you move around and shit like that. I was like, what the fuck is this? There's another control scheme where you just use your thumb for everything. And I flipped it to that initially without realizing that you're playing taiko. Everything's like a taiko drum because you have taiko drumsticks.
That's really funny.
So you have to like when you hit something in the air, you can like air combo it by drumming
That's kinda
left
tight.
and right. It's cool. It actually feels pretty good. I think the game is pretty basic. It's not anything like Goemon. Not anything like Goemon. The only
It does say Goemon inspired though. It
Yeah,
says that on like the store page.
right. I think it really
And it's by the team that did Princess Peach Showtime.
Yeah, I know. Like so mostly it's like you have elements that were in the Goemon games like the robot battles and the different gameplay sections and all that.
I've never played a Goemon game.
Okay. Well, there's like giant robot sections and shit like that where you fight and duel. The like the platforming sections are more like Kirby Forgotten Land.
They did make Kirby Epic Yarn.
Yeah, but I don't think that. The flying sections are more like the fucking gummy ship.
That's really funny.
And the boxing sections are like War of the Monsters on is that what the game was called?
War of the Monsters.
On like PS2.
Oh shit.
It was like, oh, this isn't anything like the Impact battles because the Impact battles, the robot battles in the Goemon games are in first person.
Interesting.
And this isn't, and you'd have to like button comp, like you have to hit the C buttons in a certain way to shoot a beam and all that kind of thing.
So it's just a funny game.
It's
looks
a funny
kind of
game,
like Goemon Visage.
Yeah, and there's little like obviously you don't play as a thief, you don't play as Goemon himself. It's less of like a big adventure and more of a tour of Japan. Like even one of the collectibles are these little like pots that look like poop. And then and they
Mr. Swirly.
Basically, and the character tells you a fact about the part of Japan that you're in because you're going like through places in real life on the real life island that Japan is.
Oh, okay.
And you get the collectible is literally called trivia.
That's really funny.
So it's like that's cool. I think that's cool as an idea, and the fact that like Mystical Ninja was a lot of people's a lot of video game players. Let me back up. Introduction to what like
Japanese culture,
a Japanese ass game was actually all about without being completely
inaccessible,
sanitized
okay,
for a Western audience. I was like, oh okay, the Super Nintendo Goemon game changed shit to ridiculous stuff, but everything after that was pretty unapologetically like, if you're not into what we're putting out, we're not going to change it for you. Sorry.
Funny,
but I think the recompilation projects hire them. That's how you get versions of games that run great on new machines. Really, seriously. The people figuring this stuff out and working together to make all that stuff happen, wonderful. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Like I said, I don't think that's the way to historically have a first experience with it. But at the same time, I think if you're revisiting it, it's a much more comfortable way to experience some of the older games because it's not headache-inducing 15 frames per second or some shit.
Yeah.
On a system that you have to go hook up and put converters on to get on your TV or some shit.
I haven't played any of the recomps yet, so maybe it's time.
I as soon as they pop up in a functional state, I grab it. So except for the Mario one, hilarious.
Why?
Huh? I don't know. I think I was about to do it, but because it's one of those like first of its kind kind of things, it's a little more complicated than just dropping the shit in.
I see.
So every time I think about doing it, I get a headache. I'm like, not a headache, but I'm just like, this is going to be this could be a headache, so I'm not going to bother with it. But yeah, no. So
cool.
Here we go. Next episode. Go ahead. Rattle them off.
All right. If you like the shit, give us an email at thememoryleakpodcast@gmail.com.
We'll check it one day.
Is it the? I can never fucking remember.
We have to check so we can get it right. Next time.
Give us a like, comment, subscribe, share, link, drop, email, whatever it is. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and YouTube.
That's it.
And that's it.
That's it. Thanks for
Until
listening.
next time.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
Later, you egotistic gamers.
All right. Stop.